Our presentation is presented by the following people. What is inclusive education? According to MESU 2017, inclusive education involves embracing all learners, including those with impairments, and assisting them in accomplishing their full potential. The principle of education involves equal opportunity, full participation, respect for diversity, individualized support, collaboration, and positive learning environment. Challenges can come across when implementing inclusive education are, but not limited to, systemic barriers, overcrowded classrooms, inadequate teacher training, lack of learning and teaching support materials, personal beliefs and biases, teacher attitude towards inclusive education, and time constraints we face as teachers when trying to implement inclusion in our classrooms. Lack of mutual understanding among stakeholders. There is no shared understanding and commitment among stakeholders regarding principles of inclusion and equity. Personal beliefs and biases. The implementation of inclusive education is hindered by a lack of mutual understanding as it calls for coordinated efforts from teachers, administrators, parents, and the community. Respect for diversity. There is no respect for diversity in schools. Learners and teachers find it difficult to respect what they do not know or what they do not understand. Systemic barriers. Some teachers are used to traditional educational paradigm and they oppose, and some are skeptical to change. Overcrowding and lack of infrastructure. Overcrowding is the biggest concern in public schools. The lack of infrastructure, such as classes, contribute to overcrowding. It is difficult to focus on all learners, especially those with learning impairments, in a class with 50 plus learners. Lack of teaching and training support. There aren't teaching resources, especially those used to support learners with learning impairments, such as hearing aids, braille, wheelchairs, and etc. Lack of teacher support and teacher training. Teachers do not get the support they need from the Department of Education. There are no workshops that focus on implementation of inclusion in schools. Education policy. The policies are almost impossible to adhere to as they do not accommodate learners with difficulties. Time constraints. There isn't enough time to do what is expected of us as teachers and still have or rather spare time to assist those with learning difficulties. These challenges as teachers, fostering a shared understanding of inclusion principles among stakeholders, to accomplish unbiased affiliation and to explain concepts. The principle entails having continuous discussions and arguments. ENSCO proposed that setting up forums for conversations including educators, parents, administrators, and learners may help everyone in the school community to develop a shared understanding of inclusion and equity. Employing frameworks such as the Guide for Ensuring Inclusion and Equity in Education can offer systematized techniques to regulate these discussions and inspire the development of concurrences. Importance of organizational and cultural changes in schools to support inclusive practices. ENSCO proposed methods like inclusive inquiry and cooperative action research, in which teachers and learners communicate to confer potential ways to make classes more inclusive. Through learner participation, school may establish a culture of participation that celebrates variety and fosters the testing of innovative approaches. To overcome opposition to change, the adoption of inclusive practices can also be effective to promote cooperation among teachers and propose organizational flexibility and support from senior staff. The goal of these strategies is to provide inclusive learning environments in classrooms where all learners are supported and welcomed. Lack of resources. Getting creative and creating materials is a wonderful starting point. For learners who have visual troubles, it's best they are seated in front and ensure that the writing is clear and white and neat. Learners with hearing difficulties are also placed in front or close enough so they can hear or read the teacher's lips. Overcrowded classes. Dividing learners according to their abilities. This helps when given tasks to complete. Those who are academically gifted get more work so they do not finish early and interrupt while the teacher is helping those who have learning barriers. Implementing inclusive education fosters a sense of belonging and unity among learners. It breaks down societal stereotypes and prejudice, promoting acceptance and tolerance. Thank you. Implementing inclusive education fosters a sense of